study. So the main challenge, so this is where I want to bring from a historical review and the relevance of using instrumentation, which I, as a researcher, this is the reason why I am also getting interested in the use of devices, because considering the fact that if there is some meaning in pulse diagnosis, and if it's going to be clinically useful, then it's too much of a challenge to think that practitioners will be able to learn this by themselves. It's very difficult because of the subjective element involved. I had once spent some time with an expert who was good in pulse diagnosis, and he described to me the way in which, you know, the training was done in ancient times. So the students are chosen by the teacher at a very young age. We said the best time to start studying pulse diagnosis when you're 8 or 9. That is when your mind is very receptive and you don't have too much bias in your mind. So you need to subtly, be able to distinguish the various patterns of pulse waves when you feel the pulse. So you need to amplify your sense of touch. This only comes by practice. Just because you understand a concept, you cannot read a pulse accurately. You need to repeatedly practice. So the time taken for training and developing of the skill is very intense and long. So we can say it's just like learning music. It takes a lot of practice to identify and differentiate different ragas. So this story of one of the teachers with whom I interacted was that the teacher would ask the students to feel the pulse of the people around them. It is in the Gurukula. This is the method in the Gurukula. So all the students would keep feeling the pulse of people around them. And after some days, suddenly the teacher would tell the students that, okay, now is the time for a test. So they would bring all the people whose pulse was examined by these students. And then the teacher says, now you will be blindfolded, and without looking at the face of the person, just by feeling the pulse, you have to identify that individual. So this was the test. So only if you are able to pass this test, you are able to get accepted for further training. So this means that you need a specialized skill of sensing pulse patterns. So this teacher was always telling me that the pulse is unique for each individual. The pulse is like your fingerprint. One of the messages he always used to give was that even if I don't forget your face, even if I forget your face, I will never forget your pulse. The pulse never lies. You may lie, but the pulse never lies. So it is basically the pranic energy, the imprint or the expressions of the deepest pranic impulse in your body that the Ayurvedic physician is trying to feel by checking the pulse. So in this test, the whole idea is that if you are familiar, so this means if you want to learn pulse, you should be able to, first step is to feel the pulse of different people till you are able to get that unique character of the pulse, which reveals each person's unique identity. So just like you are able to have facial recognition, this is almost like a biometric analysis. When you touch your finger on the biometric sensor, your identity is recognized. Similarly, when you show your face to a camera using face recognition algorithms, the camera is able to identify who is that person. In a similar way, your pulse wave creates a pattern that enables the person examining the pulse to identify the uniqueness of that individual. So unless you have that sensitivity in your mind and in your touch organ, you cannot learn pulse. So this was the way the ancient teachers used to test students before initiating them into the study of human pulse.